Release the hostages.
I call this regular session of the Red Oak City Council to order this Monday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, 2025, 5:30 at the Red Oak Fire Station located at 1904 North Broadway. A reminder, this meeting is being recorded and it is obviously open to the public. Invocation with Pastor Alan Dean with Covenant Church. Please stand.
I'll apologize in advance. I'm gonna pray and run today, but
That's okay.
but today I'm gonna pray and run.
Thank you.
Let's pray. Lord God, we give you great thanks for the privilege of representing you in various vocations and means of service. I thank you especially for the city council, for those that are our representatives that have been duly elected, who are asking for wisdom and guidance as they lead and direct the city business. We pray that you would indeed dispense that wisdom abundantly upon each one here. I pray that you would just give them insight as to the decisions that they make for the city. And I pray, Lord, that you would greatly bless not only our city council, but all in our city, and that you would bless us abundantly with great provision from your hand. We thank you for the gift of your Son, Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord. And we pray that you would indeed continue to bless Red Oak and bring us opportunities to serve and to be servants in this your part of Iowa that you love. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Sharon, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, number 4, roll call, please, Ashley.
Bradley,
Here.
Bill,
Here.
Randall,
Here.
Isaac,
Here.
Hebring.
Here.
Number 5, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Friedolf and Bradley. Roll call.
Bill,
Yes.
Randall,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Hebring,
Yes.
Bradley.
Number 6 is proclamations and special notices, which we do not have any. Number 7 is public comments. There is a 3-minute limit and you must sign in the front door to speak. We have one, Marty Barnett. Please come to the podium, state your name.
And just in case.
There's
Questions for the DUR.
with the DUR board. Okay, thank you. Duly noted. All right, are there any public comments online?
None.
Okay. Number 8, consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes from the Red Oak City Council on 4/21/25, receipt of the minutes from the Red Oak Planning and Zoning Commission for 4/21/25, and also the Downtown Urban Renewal Board on 4/30/25. Number C, liquor licenses. This is a 5-day license with Lucky Wife wine slushies for June 26th through the 30th. D is street closures, 1 for Memorial Day, May 26th, 2025, from Inman Drive and 8th Street. This is for the Court of Honor for our Memorial Day celebration. And 2 is the Classy Chassis Car Club, August 16th, 2025, for use of Fountain Square. And then 3 is the Ambassador's Flight Breakfast for June 29th, 2025, put on by the ambassadors.
I'll move to approve.
Bills?
Second.
Right off?
So I just want, is this the second time for the Lucky Wife wine slushie? We approved that once before, correct?
So it is a franchise, so this is the 3rd. Lucky Wife Wine.
I see.
So, yep, so it's a franchise, but they're all different DBAs.
So we have to redo that every single time?
Correct.
I see.
Unless they get an annual, they could get an annual license, but they do it case by case typically.
I see.
Per,
Okay.
yeah, annual license per
Okay.
DBA.
Very good.
Okay. First by Bill, second by Friedolf, roll call.
Randall,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Hebring,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Number 9 is the city claims for May 5th, and that would include what was in your packet for $125,515.32, plus 2 additional for $156, for a total of $125,671.32.
I'll move to approve.
Right off?
I'll second.
And Bradley, did we have any discussion or questions? Okay.
Well, I have not received the financial report yet.
We're in January, John. We're getting there.
We're getting there slowly, so. They've reckoned,
Or,
yep,
The employees at the office, John, are working 60 hours a week right now. And that's the ability of making sure that there's a lot of other things. And so we had to get utility bills out. We have to pay people and we're doing the best that we can. We brought in outside people to help. And there wasn't a good system in place and we're just trying to do the best that we can.
John, this is Brian. I just want to throw in there, I hope you realize that this is years and years of them trying to get this figured out, so.
mhm,
And the biggest thing is that for 15 years, CDs, and you all know how many CDs we have, were
Yes.
never entered into the bank.
yes,
So our bank statements said that we have $11 million and in G-Works, we had 6 million.
Here's something else that you can know. We may not know the exact total or the bottom line, but we do know we have enough money to pay the
Yes.
claims.
yes.
We have $11 million.
Yeah, we have 11 million in the bank.
I would say that having that financial report would be a higher priority than playing games with the signs out on the west side of the building.
Well, as you know, John, I told you that that was someone being funny and that had nothing to do with, if you want the utility people to come in and help do the financials, we can try that. But that's not who's doing it. Nobody was fooling around at City Hall.
Okay, so we're working through and we'll get that as soon as we can. All right. Did we
You haven't had a
roll
yet.
call on the claims, please?
Isaac,
No,
Hebrink,
Yes.
Bradley.
Yeah.
Bill.
Yes.
Right off.
Yes.
Number 10 is I would open the public hearing on the designation of the expanded Red Oak urban renewal area and on the urban renewal plan amendment. This is regarding the property located north of Ratliff for the Lorette Funeral Home. Do we have any public comments? 5:39. Opened. Do you have any public comments online?
None.
With none, I would close the public hearing here at 5:40. Number 11. Number 12, this is resolution 2025-49 to declare the necessity and establish an urban renewal area pursuant to section 403.4 of the Code of Iowa and approve the urban renewal plan amendment for the expanded Red Oak urban renewal area.
The resolution is on pages 31 and 32. The legal description is page 33, and then the 2-page urban renewal plan amendment is in there. So it calls out the description being for the funeral home. Obviously has the 2 lots. And then we're required in there to have a not to exceed number, which is that 650,000 description of the TIF. And then we also have to put our current obligation, our general obligation debt numbers. So those are in there. And then that'll be the first phase of your vote, and then we can go on to the next thing.
I move to approve the resolution.
Right off.
I'll second it.
Bills, any further discussion? Roll call.
Bill.
Yes.
Right off.
Yes.
Isaac,
yes,
Hebrink,
Yeah.
Bradley.
Yes.
Number 13, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules and consider all 3 readings of ordinance 2025-07 at this May 5th, 2025 meeting.
And so that we can facilitate that after this vote, then we would declare one more public hearing for June 2nd, which actually then addresses the development agreement.
Yeah.
And that was at the advice of TIF attorneys at Dorsey Whitney.
You're looking for a motion on that?
Yes,
So moved.
Bills
And I'll second.
and Bradley. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Right off,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes,
Hebring,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Bills,
Yes.
Okay, number 14 is ordinance 2025-07, providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the May 2025 addition to the Red Oak Urban Renewal Area pursuant to section 403.19 of the Code of Iowa. And then also I would entertain the possibility of all three and final readings, since this item was approved.
The motion would be to approve all three.
So it would be a motion to approve all three readings.
All of these.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make that motion as well.
Okay, Bills,
I'll second.
Bradley. Roll call.
right off,
Yes.
Isaac,
yes,
Hebring,
Yes.
Bradley.
Yeah.
Bills,
Yes.
Okay, then number 15 is resolution 2025-50. This is setting the date of the meeting at which it is proposed to approve a development agreement with Lorette Funeral Chapel Incorporated, including annual appropriation tax increment payments. That meeting would be for June 2nd.
So we're not actually approving the development agreement, but, there's a
setting the
couple
meeting.
typos in there. What?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
They must have used an old document from one of the other.
That's our first June meeting.
Yeah,
June 2nd is our regular June meeting.
yes.
We're just setting the date, right?
So all you're doing, and then I have a couple typos I need to fix on the actual.
Yeah, I see the city of Dyersville.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's a reference
Yeah,
to
we saw
Fountain
that.
Square.
yes.
I'll motion to approve resolution 2025-50 with, the amendments to the title.
Okay, Bradley with corrections. Okay,
I'll second.
right off. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Isaac,
yes,
Hebring,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Bills,
Yes.
right off,
Yes.
You're looking for. Next agenda
Yep.
item should start on page
Yep.
48 or
For 54.
52.
I guess it does start at 52. Okay, good. I was like, so number 16 is the motion to suspend the rules and consider the second and third reading of ordinance 2025-03 at the May 5th meeting. This is regarding the water bill changes that we've been discussing the last few weeks.
It's actually our fourth meeting of discussion. I don't really like to suspend the rules for stuff like this, but you'll recall we discussed it.
Yes,
Then we wrote the code and then we just had that one switch. So technically Bree wanted us to redo the first, so,
Let's go into effect immediately then.
sorry,
Yes, there's a
Susan, it gets in the paper
On publication.
from next week.
is there anything further in this you want to further explain?
If anybody has any questions, we've discussed it.
been talking about this.
Okay,
So remember that you're, starting next week, if someone comes in for a utility deposit, it'll be $100 for tenants. Remember that
Oh, yeah.
the biggest new thing is that if you have a lien exemption, you'll have to pay $200 as a landlord. We will require landlords to sign off on applications. We will change the billing date to the 15th in June. The bills just went out one last time for the 20th due date. So they'll start being due on the 15th.
When do the bills go out?
They're supposed to go in the mail the last day of the month.
Last day of the month.
okay,
But we're gonna encourage, like, if somebody really wants more notice and doesn't have to worry about snail mail, they can, number one, sign up for an e-bill. You can do auto pay so that they're not worrying about it, and if they get like this morning when we processed them, just because it took longer, there were so many errors in, like, just a lot of things we had 4,000. So we have 2,600 customers and we have 4,000 bills on the books. Because there's just so many that have never been resolved, and so we're hoping that as we get everything ready, like we're mailing all of those extra bills are going out one last time, and then anything over $50 will go on that set-off program. I found 25 parcels that, so just so that you guys know, like, remember that you said like we weren't gonna go back after tenants?
Mhm.
Because that wasn't ultimately the landlord, we weren't gonna go back after landlords or tenants that were no longer active tenants.
Yes.
But we found probably another 25 parcels where the state of Iowa allows that even if they don't own a property in Red Oak to lien, if they owe us, and I found houses in Stanton, Villisca, Council Bluffs, like I sat all weekend with all these delinquent final bills. So we're obviously still not going after the tenant, but any land or owner that I can find that owns property in the state of Iowa is gonna be getting a letter. And again, there's some that are $1,500, $800.
It's long overdue.
Yes.
Some of them might be 15 years old, but as long as it's the owner themselves, you know, remember, we said we're not going back after tenants.
Yep.
Because we're not going back all of the landlords for their tenants. Any of those tenants, it'll go to the set-off program. But
Since we went online, how many people signed up for online access?
the last time I checked, it was up to 400.
400, that's good. Do you have, and I was talking to Ashley about this earlier, about people that don't know how to access and get through the rigmarole of going.
They can come to City Hall. We've offered to help people. I did it right at City Hall for one gentleman. We typed up an instruction sheet that said, go here, click on this, but anybody like, I don't know, we've probably had half a dozen people that are like, I just can't get on. And we're like, well, we know it's not the system because 400 people have. So if you really are struggling, you know, you're welcome to come here. We can go on my
So they-
laptop.
They can come in if they need direction. Okay, that's what I was wondering, because there's a lot of people that just all have their phone and it's so hard to navigate.
It's definitely a little bit more challenging on the phone than if you have a
Yeah,
whole
I
screen.
know, but not everybody does.
You know, I did the ACH thing with my water bills. It's the best thing ever. Don't even have to
I
worry
know,
about
but
it.
I'm saying some people can't.
I know, I
You
understand.
can't do it like that, yeah.
It's just so convenient.
It is.
All right,
And
so
then we're going just to e-billing, we're doing.
No,
paper
we'll
billing?
still do paper billing, but
Do they have the option of opting out of the paper billing?
yes, that's what I'm saying. And then like this morning, when we sent them to the post office, like I signed up for e-billing, so I just get my bill right now. So then you're always still gonna get a certain amount of time, like you're never gonna be dependent on the mail. You know, there's been a few times where it gets hung up in Omaha and people don't get it till the 7th
I
or
like the
8th.
fact that you can put a minimum or maximum in there that they draw out, because you never know what your bill's gonna be.
Right,
Yeah.
it's
Especially in
like
summer.
crazy.
yeah, that is
A
nice.
lot of water usage.
So I need a motion to just to suspend the rules to consider the second and third reading, and then the next one is actually to approve the ordinance.
I'll make a motion on that.
Okay, right off.
I'll second.
Bradley? Any discussion? Roll call?
Hebrink,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
right off,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes,
Okay, number 17, ordinance 2025-03 to increase the water deposit, $100 for singles, 200 for landlords. Establish a monthly due date at the 15th. Temporary vacancy fees of $40 and landlord requirements to register as the owner for utility purposes. This would be the second, third, and final reading of this ordinance.
Have you had any new signups that have said anything about the deposit?
No, because we haven't, I mean, there's a couple people that came in that said, I'm gonna be moving, and I was like, well, we have a discount going on for the next 10 days. Because it's going up next week. So no, nobody's gotten charged the new ones yet.
Okay.
It has to be in the paper, so it'll be next week, Thursday, the 15th, anybody that comes in after that.
And what are we doing for the landlord requirements to?
There's only one landlord right now that tries to file this exemption, so I will be meeting with them personally. Okay, once it's in effect.
Okay.
Nobody else does it. And so people understand, like, so cities have a right, the state allows a landlord to file this lien exemption. I've never heard of such a thing, because now that I understand what it is, like, there's a reason nobody does it. So what we were doing was, we have it on there, somebody knows about it, and then they're not required to do anything different. So think about how silly it would be to say, you have a law that says landlords have to pay. But we have a piece of paper that you can turn in that means you don't have to pay. Like, that doesn't make sense. I was like, what do you mean you can just turn in a piece of paper and suddenly just say I'm exempt? So what it says is that you can give those people a higher deposit. So the tenants get what's considered our average 60-day deposit, and then a landlord on top of it has to put in a separate 90-day deposit. So that's where you get in that, when the landlord amount is the final thing, like if they have to pay that $200, that's all we can ever get. So number one, we have to do better about never letting people get higher than $300. So every tenant, if the landlord files exemption, the tenant will come in and pay their normal 100, they get treated the same. You don't get treated differently because your landlord files that. Then the landlord has to file $200. So we would be protected $300 on that parcel.
Yeah, that's per property.
So think about if you're a landlord that has 30 properties, do you want to give us $6,000 to hold on to all the time?
Right.
Or do you want to pay at the end of the day if something happens on a few parcels? And that's why I've never heard of it, because nobody does that.
If I understand it correctly, in the past, we had been administering it incorrectly.
We were not, I don't know about incorrectly, but we were not taking advantage of the reason the spirit of the law is
I
there,
understand.
which is
That's
you're
what I
supposed to
meant.
put a
Yeah.
separate deposit.
Yeah.
So it was just like piece of paper to say like, I'm out. I don't have to pay.
I get it. So I'll make this motion.
Okay, bills,
I'll second.
right off. I keep looking at you, Adam.
thinking.
Any further discussion?
Over there.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, roll call.
Bradley,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
right off,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes,
Hebrink,
Yeah, yes.
Number 18 is ordinance 2025-04 to increase the excavation permit fee from $10 to $35. This is the third and final reading.
Move to approve the third and final reading.
Right off,
I'll second.
Bradley. Roll call.
Bill,
Yes.
right off,
Yes.
Isaac,
yes,
Hebrink,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Number 19, ordinance 2025-05 to increase the driveway permit fee to $50 from $10. This also is the third and final reading.
So moved.
Bills,
Second.
right off. Roll call.
right off,
Yes.
Isaac,
yes,
Hebrink,
No.
Bradley,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Number 20, this is resolution 2025-51. This is the city council meeting policies and procedures, city council ethic code, and the public hearing protocols. So a resolution to approve these policies and the correction to where we mentioned that we will use Robert's rule as a guide rather than we will follow them to a T was corrected.
So there was-
68, so
There was never anything like this in place in the past.
not that I'm aware.
Well, we did one not long
Well,
ago.
we just did like one sheet or a couple of sheets that
Yeah,
just
simple.
was real brief and kind of light,
This is much more defined
a
and
little more thorough, I
Yeah.
would say.
it also kind of addresses, conduct amongst the council with the public and also with the staff.
In the Roberts rules, I put shall guide the city council meetings unless otherwise requested by the mayor and or a council member for a specific reason. This is not to suggest that the council is required to abide by every element of Roberts rule.
Perfect.
Well, I move to approve that resolution.
Right off,
I'll second.
Bradley. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Isaac,
yes,
Hebrink,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
right off.
Yes.
Number 21, this is ordinance 2025-08. This is our farm animals ordinance regulation that we discussed last week. This is the first of 3 readings. We will do 3 readings on this and the next as well, so.
So remember that everyone kind of had a thought about farm animal permits, that we did limitations like 6 hens, no roosters. And it never actually said that. So what we discussed last time was being a little bit more clear. So the underlined portion on page 84 is what's new. First of all, calls out that the fee will be set by resolution, which we would do at the third meeting if the council wants to give some guidance on what we think. The second thing says that applications must include a drawing of the animal housing unit being proposed, its location on the lot, and specific number of animals listed in number 5. And then after, I think, Adam, you had brought up like rabbits and stuff like that, so I wanted to make sure that we listed, what are we calling farm animals, so that that's not goats, cows, and horses or something, so small. So I listed here hens, rabbits, pigeons, ducks. Now, pigeons that are in the house are an exemption under number 3. If they're in a house, they are exempt from this permit. So this would be somebody that had like homing pigeons, you know, for weddings and things like that, that live outside. If we want to add anything else, but the way I wrote it was that you can have 6 total of a combination. So if you want 3 chickens and 3 bunnies, you can have that. If you want 6 bunnies, 6 chickens, no roosters, it doesn't allow roosters. We still have the moratorium. I did, just for sake, we have one current household that we found out. First of all, I don't think we've ever let people know that this is an annual thing. And we haven't had a good list kept in the past. So we've never been like saying, hey, you had a chicken permit and are you still chickening at your house? And so we found one that there had been a situation where there was a potential of a rooster that people were being woken up. So we addressed that, and what, the lady came in today, I did renew her permit today. Moratorium being on the new stuff, but not the renewals, so that obviously if somebody's not compliant, we're not gonna say you have to get rid of your chickens during this moratorium. So I did issue that permit, and they just said that when they got the chicken, like, they didn't know it was a rooster, and it grew up to cock-a-doodle-doo in the neighborhood, so. They have a friend or somebody's boss or something, they said that lives out in the country, and that the rooster is being rehomed to a country location where roosters are allowed.
So like fried chicken.
Fun fact, if you live in that neighborhood.
Would exotic birds fall under the pigeons? Cause I know we have somebody that has the exotic birds.
I think, I don't know the whole code, I'd have to look it up here, but
I don't think
I
so.
think that's
Not
under the other-
specific.
They're not-
They're not pigeons,
They're not pigeons.
well, they're definitely not pigeons, if that's what.
Yeah.
so that would not be under.
There's
the-
a.
Like a peacock or
There's
something.
already, I thought, something in the code
There's a
about
list of what
exotic
it
animals.
goes.
What about pot-bellied pigs?
You
Oh,
want to allow them? I certainly would say you should have 6 of those.
So I hear
So
you're
if you
talking,
wanna say,
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that comes up to mind that I don't know if we have anybody in town that does have them, but I know that we have it.
I've lived in, or I've managed cities
There
where
are
there's
people.
1 or 2.
I know people in town that have.
So do we wanna put them in here that they should also be in the permit, and then you could call out a separate number?
6 seems to be like a lot for potbelly pig, but
How about sheep? I wouldn't, that's what I'm saying, if you were gonna put potbelly pigs, I would not say that that's under the 6.
no sheep, no goats.
So getting to what you were referring to, I think you're talking, when you're talking about exotic birds. So you're talking about roosters there as well. I mean, you know, the hens of that particular breed don't make those same sounds that you're talking about, the roosters.
But here's the deal, what if they keep them in the house?
And they're allowed, because they don't bother the rest of the people.
That's right.
I'm
'Cause I
saying
mean,
we
you
had to
could
put 2 dogs
technically
down
put a-
because they got a hold of those.
Don't
guys.
You know, a cage in the house. That same goes for the pot-bellied pigs, if they put the pigs in the house. That same goes for possibly goats. Bring them in the highway.
Well, I don't know if you keep a goat in house.
I bet you some people do.
Goat yoga,
Exactly.
don't they have that?
There's a goat.
That's a thing.
You guys are getting way
Yeah.
out on the limits.
I
I
know
agree.
that we have someone who has exotic birds because we had to put 2 dogs down because the dogs got a hold of
That's
us,
true.
remember? And this is,
Under the current code, it says
How about
that
alligator?
farm animal includes chickens, turkeys,
Exotic.
and fowl-like birds.
Snake.
there we go.
That'd be
I like
exotic,
maybe
too.
that word.
Fowl-like birds would be
Fowl-like
where they're
bird.
like exotic birds fall into play.
So we
There's
can,
a thing where like, hold on, I'm looking under the other chapter before that. Wasn't there something about the definition
I'm
of,
just saying that's what a farm animal is referencing in the old code.
Maybe we need to change that.
Mhm.
Well,
But we could approve the ordinance with that modification, can't we? Okay. If somebody so chooses to make that or that motion
I'll make that motion.
with that
Yeah.
edit. Got it.
One other thing though, I think that doesn't mean that all those can be allowed, like where
No.
it says goats, because
It
there's
can't,
the
it just
exemption.
lists that. I'm not saying that it includes
Right,
that.
but what it does say is the definition of farm animals that are allowed under this, in the ag zone, farm animals are kept on property that exceeds 5 acres. No permits are needed. So to me, if you're on the 5 acre ag zone, you could have all of them.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But this is when you're not ag, then you can only have 6 when you're in like the normal compound of where most of us live.
Mhm.
So I would say, cause I don't want people to think that those definitions, but I do think that those, everything that's listed in that definition, if that's what you're reading, Tim, like number sub 11. Where it says,
Yes, that's all I was talking about.
but where it does say cattle, sheep and goats, male bulls, minks, skunks, hawks.
Pretty much trying to encompass everything that is not a dog or a cat, a domesticated
Right.
animal. Is what
But I
this
just
one
think,
is
so we
referencing.
understand when we call out ag, we say they can have farm animals without a permit. We define farm animals to be this,
Yes.
Mhm.
and they have to be on a big 5 acre parcel. So just so we're all clear, if you're not ag and you're not 5 acres, you're in the 6 limit.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then everybody else could have goats.
what's interesting to me is the 75 feet, because there's some houses that are really close together, so that would really impede some people from even having.
But it's a 5 acre parcel.
No, but this,
That's only for 5 acres.
Yeah, and and I can't think of
It's
any
in the
properties that are
If
gonna,
it's ag, they
In
don't.
agri-
I don't think of it, I can't think of one property that'll fall into that category within the city limits of Red Oak, Iowa. I can't think of one.
Shouldn't,
Maybe, I mean,
Nothing on the south end.
maybe Randy Orm's property, but that'd be the only one I can even think of that would even fall into that category.
Mhm.
Cause 5 acres. Everything else would be out in that, anything else that would fall in that category would be in our two.
Well, but it's typically when you
Within the
annex,
city
so
limits.
sometimes
Yeah, I
people
get it, I
annex
get
a
it.
farm,
that property's talking
they'll
about it.
bring it in for development and they still have a
It's not
5
a-
acre.
It's just
I
farm.
get that.
So
most
you're
of our
like,
nobody
properties
lives on
are
it.
acre
the
less.
one by.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
you
I don't
know,
even know
within
where
the
those
acres.
is. You don't have many acreages.
So somebody has a motion.
What do you wanna do about potbelly pigs?
It's not.
You wanna say people can have 1 or 2? So we don't come back,
I would further that.
that you had
I say we
none.
just leave this as is for now.
Yeah, if we have to address that later, but we get a complaint, we can address it.
You mean as
As
proposed or?
proposed.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, okay, so I don't think anybody should have 6 pot-bellied pigs.
I just
That's a
said, if
herd.
you're gonna do potbelly pigs, do 1 or 2.
That's different.
But if you know people have them, technically, they're probably not supposed to.
Outside, but if they've got them in the house,
Then they're exempt, they're in the house.
I guess they got them in the house.
It's no different than dog rule.
Yeah, but you can't have any dogs that you aren't licensed, and you can't have as many dogs as you want, so.
Can't see.
But then you're gonna have to change what the definition of domesticated animal is.
Yeah, because potbelly pig could be if it's living inside. Then you could live in it for the 4.
Yeah, and you could also say that therapy pets, so you can get a whole gamut of.
This is my therapy pig that I'm going to need it.
My motion is to approve the ordinance as written.
As written.
Period. That's
Okay.
my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. I got write-off and bills. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Hebrink,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Bills,
Yes.
Rydolph.
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes,
Number 22.
Hold on, we can put it on the next agenda too, but do you think, I mean, by the time we accept the permit, person has to go out and inspect the property every year, do you think $50 is too much? 30, 40, I don't think it should be less than 30, it's 10 right now,
Is it per property or per animal?
no, per
Per
property.
property.
So you're going out, like if you think about, like I said, you're receiving it, we have to go online, review it.
Between
Someone
going
has to
out
drive out there, walk through it, look at the plans, say it's okay, send them an email for a permit.
and reviewing the paperwork and all that stuff, I would think that if we did it for
35.
any of that,
I'm thinking. okay, this is what we have, and then if we ever get in a thing against them, we'll have it signed, and then we can find them. I mean, that makes more sense to me there, rather than somebody go out and inspecting it.
People are funny about chicken. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't
What were you
think
gonna say?
we need to waste our time going out and counting somebody's chicken when they can hide a couple of them. You see what I mean? Just,
Either way, you gotta review stuff.
just come in and have them sign up again for their annual permit. And then if we have any complaints, then we can find them or whatever, and just say you know.
But that's hundreds of dollars of
Legal
Yeah,
fees.
support.
We wouldn't have to go out and check them.
Well, we don't have to go and check if you don't want, but I still think $10 is not even
No,
covering the cost of.
I would
No.
say at least 35 to
Yeah.
50.
But you know, I
Based
think,
on the
I
other
think it's our
fees.
responsibility to check them, Sharon. I'm sorry. I think it is our responsibility. If we're gonna issue permits for people who have farm animals in town, I think it's our responsibility to monitor those, because that could get out of hand real quick. Sorry.
Yeah, it's up to you guys. It doesn't. Right now, I believe the code says.
But I think we need to cover our expenses, in it, whatever
35
that
at
is.
least.
I agree with that, covering expenses.
I just was thinking the time element and what it cost us, if we go out and do that.
I don't know that there's that many.
Could our nuisance officer take care of that?
Well, yeah, he does,
It
but
would.
it's still,
Okay.
at a time, we do everything that there is.
What do you think would be a reasonable fee for that, Lisa?
It says after inspection of the premise, by the way, in the code. That's
Yes.
what I'm doing.
Yes.
I think 35 would be.
I just don't think 10, that's all. Whatever you guys want. 35 to 50, I would.
We
think.
can't do anything for $10 in the 21st century. I'm sorry. We can't even do piece of paperwork for $10.
We're not voting on the amount today. She just was wanting that
I
for the next
Draft a
resolution.
resolution, so
Yeah.
just think about it.
So just think about it. So, but we do have a first and a second here for the ordinance. Did we do a? roll
We
call?
already voted.
Okay, sorry, I'm sorry. Okay. Number 22, ordinance 2025 09. This is the tree contractor licensing ordinance. This is the first of 3 readings. And I know Lisa did receive some additional information or questions and concerns, and is there anything you want to share?
Yeah, this all kind of started with people wanting to make sure that we're spreading out business, getting the best prices for the city. When you bring up stuff like that, then people want to make sure that it's apples to apples and that we're, making sure that contractors have the appropriate insurance or taking safety precautions. If they're gonna do emergency work for us, that people are available, kind of on the lickety split when there's a storm. So I researched, as you know, last time, looking at other communities. I kind of did like some best practices on the kinds of things. I've talked to all 3 of our main local contractors about it. I know Justin was here back there. So our current code already required the liability insurance, but we had no mechanism to say like, hey, you have to come in and get a permit, or when are you turning it in? It just required you to have it. So this basically is defining if you're trimming trees, it defines a tree trimming company, defines tree trimming work, what that means, public or private property, that you have to get a license, that you are exempt. This was part of our discussion last time, that if you're doing your own work, you're exempt. And if you have people coming over and you are not paying them, so they are not operating a business, anybody can help you. You want to take your risk, but once you're for profit, then you have to get a license. Proof of insurance has to be submitted, and it's liability insurance, vehicle insurance. One of the questions that came up from the local contractors was work comp. So one of our businesses does not have employees, they're their sole proprietor. So what I said in here was whatever Iowa law requires. So that means that if you're a sole proprietor and you don't need work comp, then you don't need work comp, because we're not making a new rule.
But if you hire a subcontractor to come in and do your work for you, that subcontractor has to have workman's comp.
They have to have a license.
And they have, if they have more than one employee, they have to have workman's comp
explained
as well.
But hold on here. So if we have a sole proprietor that doesn't pay into workman's comp, takes down a tree, then he hires somebody out to clean up.
That person has to have workman's comp.
Now, does he still have to license in the city of Red Oak then?
That's what I
Because they're
told
doing
TJ.
cleanup. They're not doing tear down. They're not doing cut down. They're doing cleanup. That means that tree is dropped and on the ground.
But they could have a chipper, which are very dangerous.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's, to me, that's just, that sounds like trying to circumvent you know, the rules and
TJ
regulations.
did not seem to have a problem with his sub getting a license. He just didn't wanna have to require work comp on himself.
But, and I would
And I
agree,
said-
and I agree with that
I
statement.
said, well, the state law doesn't require you to, and if,
Yeah.
as soon as you get somebody,
So-
then you're gonna get into the mode you need it.
So would he be exempt from C then?
Pardon
As
me,
long as he is the only person, yeah.
Okay,
what did you say, Adam? I'm sorry, what your
that's
question?
4C that we're talking about right here.
That's the letter of the work comp
Yeah.
item.
Yep. Yeah.
And I explained that to him. I said, so we're not making up our own rules. We're saying which is required. And we do the same thing. It came up, Justin and I talked yesterday about the power lines.
The 4D in the inland marine.
Yeah,
Now, and from my understanding of this one, is that if, they were to call, Mid-American, another company that would come in and trim those trees back 10 feet from the power lines,
Aspen,
Aspen, to make it safe for them.
and they'll have to get licensed as well.
And they would have to get licensed as well.
Just let me ask you a question. So inland marine, they don't cover you power lines. That's just for your own equipment,
Two
correct?
separate issues.
Two different.
Okay, yeah.
We're just talking for the power line. So what I said was, if Iowa doesn't require it, again, I was very clear in here that we are acknowledging that we don't regulate this.
Mhm.
But I don't wanna have to come back here and say, well, we said they didn't need that, and now the state of Iowa changes their rules, and now we don't comply. Then you're always having to like think ahead. So we're just saying whatever the rules are. So as I explained to these guys, if we don't require it, and if you can call Mid-Am, who hires Asplin to come in and do everything within 10 feet, then you don't need it.
Right.
If the rules change, then you need it, and we don't have to change our code. And I have, a call in to talk to the guy at Mid-American, just to kind of do my own due diligence to make sure. But if things change, or if you're somehow doing something and you are in violation, then you're in violation. Like if you are, I'm in a hurry and I'm just not gonna call them.
But I guess this would allow me, if I had a tree I needed down on my property, I could hire a contractor to come drop the tree, and then me and my buddies could dispose of the tree once it's on the ground.
That's the way I understand
As
it.
long as you're not paying your buddies.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Now, and so are we gonna require our companies to have the inland marine coverage then under this policy?
Cause when you think about it, like it's for us, like I explained that for us. We have buildings, we have vehicles, and then for us, we have contractors' equipment and property in the open. So if you have a loader, a grader, things that are not normally licensed for roadworthy vehicles, you have to get a separate policy. And if you look at like a huge place that people get hurt is chippers. Like your shirt
Right.
goes in, you're in a hurry and your whole body is sucked in there. Now, I'm sure liability and things like that cover it. It's not a significant amount of money. Nobody has said that. I think, if you look at the coverages, it's clearly not a big line.
So I always thought inland marine just covered your equipment for like theft and stuff like that. I didn't think they covered any liability issues for you. Am I incorrect with that
Like
thinking?
theft and fire,
Pardon me?
theft and fire.
Yeah, they don't cover any liability issues at all.
I know, I had the marine insurance for like the last 13 years, so I already have, it's pretty cheap, 20-30 bucks a month.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at, I mean, it only deals with protecting their equipment. It has nothing to do with protecting the public or our assets at all. The inland marine policy, that's just protects their.
Yeah, but
equipment.
think about like the chipper starts on fire and something happens and like
That,
then you
their
sit and
liability
debate.
policy would cover that. If the chipper caught on fire, then
Yeah.
we would pay them for their chipper, but their liability would cause any damage done to any other properties.
So my point in this is I Googled what is the normal and best practice for a tree trimmer to happen. And it's $25 a month, so it's
Yeah.
not breaking anything.
It covers lease and rented equipment too, employee tools, motor truck, cargo, terror, stuff like that. So,
I'm not opposed to it. I just want to make sure that we're not terming it incorrectly. That it's not a liability policy at all. All it does is cover their investment into their equipment. Doesn't cover any liability.
You just never know, like, I've had a property in a city that I worked in where a vehicle started a house on fire. And as soon as one's not insured, they all start fighting. Is it the homeowner's insurance or the vehicle's
I
insurance?
get that.
So to me, like just learning the things that I've dealt with to say that like they do a lot of work in the right of way. There's a huge liability of people not doing a good job of how you drop trees, falling on other people's houses, falling in the road, falling on somebody's car. Whatever it is, like
And once again, I get that, but that's liability. That's.
But what I'm saying is by having them all, then there's no debt. There's no, what did the chipper do? What guilt of it? I just, it's all semantics, but as soon as somebody has to pay a bill, they start
I'm sold.
just easier. And if we were talking thousands more dollars, I would understand.
I get it. I get it.
And I think, the way I'm looking at it is the reason why I'm bringing this up, because we want to make sure nobody is excluded to being in this rotation.
Mm.
And if we have one policy in there that might exclude them, because maybe that they just don't see the importance of having a insurance on there. Because they've been doing it for many years, because, they just don't need it.
Yeah, I'm not an underwriter. I don't have those.
Yeah, exactly. And they should know more about it than me. I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
So,
again, we're gonna do 3 readings on this one.
Yeah.
Somebody feel comfortable making a motion to approve it as it is?
We've made minor tweaks in the past, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll move
Something
to
we
approve
decide
as it stands.
by the third reading that.
I think 4D, I think that's something that we need to look into. I don't know if all companies need that one. Cause I think you answered my question with the 4C, the workman's comp, especially if you are a owner. And you're having your family members working for you, or you're working by yourself. I think it's 4C would be
And
fine,
the key is, it's not our regulation.
right?
We just wanna know that if you wanna do business here, you're not gonna be a
Right.
fly by night not covering it. So whatever the state says, like if they change their mind and said.
Yeah.
There's some
And I know-
rash of injuries.
And I know you're looking over the best for our city, just in case, we have this, a certain company on this call and something bad happens, we don't wanna be held liable.
Mhm.
You just never know.
I
when
gotta
it's
look,
up.
and I understand that way you're looking at it too.
Again, it's not like we're saying, now you have to double your liability that costs you
Right.
thousands of
And
dollars.
I'm trying to fight for this person. I'm not for the 4D on there, the inland marine coverage, from what I've understood, they can call somebody to have those taken down, so then they'd be all out of. Liability for that one,
But if it's, $250 a year,
that you should have it.
yeah.
And good practice, good.
Shouldn't be a deal breaker.
You make a motion, Brian?
I did.
Okay, I'm sorry. So bills?
Good.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Right all? Any further discussion? Roll call.
Bradley?
Yes.
Yes.
Right off?
Yes.
Isaac?
Yes.
Hebrink?
No,
All right, number 23 is resolution 2025-52. This is a new and better and cleaner way of doing the approval of the Downtown Urban Renewal Board grants. And this particular resolution includes the approval of 519 North First Street, which is the Red Oak Elks Lodge, number 1304. It's for their complete kitchen remodel. And the grant for them is $7,500 because of the total project cost. And then also for 622 North Fourth Street, which is Junction Rentals, the grant amount is $3,782.66 because of the total cost for $15,000. So
This will be for any tourism grants or the DURs, I think. I think in the past, you maybe just had them on the claims list.
yeah, and most people didn't realize that we were approving them because they were on the claims. Yes.
I don't see where I really saw a resolution, so every time
There's
that
that.
they come forward, we'll just do a resolution like this.
I think this is good. I think this is great. So,
I'll motion to approve.
okay, Bradley,
outside of,
Hebrink. Roll call.
Bills?
Yes.
Right off?
Yes.
Isaac?
Yes.
Hebrink?
Yes.
Bradley? Yes.
Number 24, resolution 2025-53. This is the appointment of Jim Hoskinson to the Historical Commission in place of Mike Vega, who is moving. Sad to see him go. But
Just so you
also
know,
good.
Jim was our
Chair.
of our historical commission about 4 years ago, and he did a good job. So I'm
Yes,
glad
he
he
did.
did come back on the board.
Yep,
You making that motion, Sharon?
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve.
Bradley
I'll second.
and Bills. Roll call.
Right off?
Yes.
Isaac?
Yes.
Hebrink?
yes,
Bradley?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Number 25, resolution 2025-54. This is to set the public hearing date for the fiscal year 25 budget amendment. We're proposing Tuesday, May 27th at 5:30. This is again the amendment, which means we're amending what we think the final budget amount will be, and we have to do it before the end of May.
I move to approve the resolution.
Okay, roll, or Friedhoff
I'll second.
and Hebrink. Roll call.
Isaac?
Yes.
Hebrink?
Yes.
Bradley?
Yeah.
Bill?
Yes.
Right off.
Yes. That's at 5:30, correct?
5:30.
Should be the only thing on the agenda.
5:30
Yeah,
Tuesday, the
make sure I got my
27th,
calendar
and it will
correct.
be here at the fire station.
Okay.
All right, number moseying along, 26, update on downtown urban renewal grant request approval process and duties, and I am certain that Roger Vile will be very pleased with this. So, and the whole board will be, because
Yeah, and that's.
we've
quite a-
struggled with
quite
why
a-
the city hasn't had more involvement in these parts of this.
It's part of the city's duties.
It
I think,
is.
To do this and administrative wise, and I don't think we should expect that.
Volunteers,
Any DUR member to do those things. It's a lot of paperwork.
it is a
And
lot of
nobody
work.
gets paid for it. It's a volunteer situation.
And Roger was, at one point,
He's done it for
he
years.
was chair, he was secretary, he was everything. He did all of it for a while. So, and then thank you, Marty, for stepping up and doing secretary stuff, and yes, it's a lot of work to,
So the secretarial information will be given to the city, correct? Is that right?
It is now.
It is now and it will be for all the paperwork that is involved. So the applications will go to the city and the city will go forward from there, correct?
and Lisa, will you be the one reviewing those, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get some help from the office staff, but yes.
Yeah.
And then you'll go back to the
We'll
DUR
be like,
board,
we'll receive them. And
review
then if
them.
there's something to be reviewed, then we're gonna have the meetings on the calendar for every month. And then if they don't have a need to meet, then we won't meet. If they have a meeting,
So my suggestion is, we talked about earlier, that we'd have more advanced notice of the
Mhm.
DUR meetings and so we can review.
we'll always
the
be on
packet.
Friday.
Yeah, right before it. Better.
Okay,
Yeah,
That's good.
Sharon was unable to attend, but we went through all that. So Roger was kind of asking to step down because of all the duties and there's nobody else that's gonna do it. And there had been like the chamber, as I explained in the memo, the chamber was doing it. The city said no. He took it over. The city said no. And there's no reason that volunteers, I mean, even when you just think from an auditing perspective, like, you know,
it's the,
we don't
it's
have
the
you
city's
entering the
fund.
bills and
Yeah,
doing that stuff either,
yeah,
so.
exactly. Nope, I
It
think that's
makes
good.
sense.
So do we don't need to take any action
No,
on
I'm
that.
just telling.
We just are all in agreement that
See me
that's,
doing it.
that's a much better way of handling it, and hopefully it'll give Roger some reprieve. So we appreciate all of his work and effort and all the time he spent.
Been doing it for years, I think.
Years.
Years
Yep.
and years.
Number 27, discussion on the consent agenda items to expand. Basically, Lisa is suggesting that we add some additional items to our consent agenda just to keep the efficiency of our meetings going, and I agree. I think all of the things that you're proposing make a lot of sense. We can always pull them out if there's
I
something
agree
someone wants to
too,
speak.
because I think if we all go over all the packet information and the resolutions. And that we need to discuss it, you can, but.
Well, what items, I mean, are we gonna put in?
So I gave an example in here. So tonight, this would have been my suggestion, if
Mhm.
we were going to the most liberal other end. So the Jim Hoskinson
Mhm.
would be one.
Mhm.
Setting the public hearing. Like not really a debate that we're having it.
Mhm.
And remember that the key to Robert's rules is anytime someone wants to talk about something that I choose
Right.
to put on there.
Yeah.
You can be like, hey, I feel like we shouldn't have the public hearing on Tuesday, the 27th. We need to have a debate about when we're gonna have it, because we don't have a quorum. You would pull it off and then vote on that normal. I think the only, like, this would be, to me, the most extreme of them is if we're in a third reading for an ordinance. And no one has had any concerns. I'm between the second and the third, we don't get any more public comment or anything that I feel like you need to debate. You could put it on there. Again, if all of a sudden Adam was like, hey, I think $700 should get lowered to $500 at the last meeting, then you would pull it off. you know, like, cause we did that at the last meeting, right? But we were 700 the whole time. So if I thought you weren't gonna change it, you would just say, I wanna pull it off. So I don't think you should ever do a first reading or a second reading. Obviously, if we're talking about, should we have an ordinance, that's never gonna be like that. You know, some of these grants, if that's what you wanted to do, you know, it still is listed on there. It's really just instead of having a separate motion for all of them.
I guess the only thing I would, be concerned with about stuff like grants is then there's, you know, we just do the consent agenda and there's no discussion. And it's, you know, not really out there.
But that's why we have a board that goes over.
Yeah, I agree, Sherrod. That's the whole point.
And they're the ones that approve it. There's a board of 7 people on the DUR board.
And once again, I'm not talking about because we're gonna make any decisions on it. The reason I say that we break it out is so we're just informing the public. That was my whole
Okay.
point of even making that instead, because when it's in the consent agenda, you know, nobody really knows what we're doing.
Well, and if
Well,
we're talking
you can still
about,
To that point, they can download the packet and see exactly what we're talking about.
Once again, just,
if we're
I
talking,
understand what you're saying,
we're
but
talking like,
we have to also, it's okay to put the responsibility on others to seek the information out.
well,
if we're talking about like
Sorry,
thriving
that's how I feel.
communities or community catalyst grant, we will have talked about that as like an item. And then if it's like your instruction to do a letter of support, that could be on the consent agenda.
Well, we always have an open discussion
Yeah.
before we vote in.
So I think those are,
I agree with everything you said, putting underneath
I
there.
mean,
I
we
have
can
no
try,
problem
like,
with
there's
any of that.
nothing like we're adopting an ordinance, you know, if we,
I'm not sure about ordinance reading, so even third readings, I'm not sure about that.
it's allowed.
Well, I'm not saying it's not allowed, I'm not sure if I agree with that, that's all I'm saying.
okay,
I don't, we know, we don't spend a ton of time doing that. It's not, and that's what we're trying to do, is save time, correct?
And all I'm saying is we can swing this pendulum to the other way
I get
and
it.
try it. And then we can swing it back to the middle if you're not comfortable at any time.
It can be the ones that are, we don't feel there's gonna be a lot of discussion, so we can try a couple of those.
How about if we swing to the middle first, yeah, like Sharon said, let's swing to the middle first and send all the way over to the other side.
Up to the council.
I like
That's my
swinging to the
decision.
middle, yeah.
I gotta type everything the same no matter what.
I get
So
it.
all it is, and here's another thing is that, you know, like you would also, like, as silly as it is, but like, there's a lot of money that we spend on publishing minutes. And
Yes.
so, like, not that that's a reason to do it, but there is less motions.
mm-hmm,
If it's the same routine stuff, I hate to say it, but
mm-hmm.
another thing.
I don't know, I'd say swing out.
You wanna try the middle or do you want, like, what, the only thing that seems to be,
It's the
Is the
third reading
ordinances.
ordinances.
But like,
And we'd
you said,
only do the
if you
third.
wanna discuss it, we can pull it out at that time and add it to the agenda. and
If it's
discuss
not,
it
if it's
we have to.
non-controversial, I say it should just go in there.
Well, we just can't try it.
I would suggest the
Say we get
council
the shot.
I mean,
consider
if there's
that.
been no resistance in the first 2 readings, nothing's changed, then I would think the third
Right.
one.
and to me, our goal is not to
That's
make shorter meetings, but like we've fallen behind during the budget on things like recodification.
Yes,
So at
Yes.
least if like, you know, cause even just when it's on the agenda, like there is,
There are more things that are more important.
right.
That's my thought.
And when we're on the
exactly.
third reading, if it's just a, you know, like people still get to see it, you publish the agenda with the exact same words. You're just lumping it into one motion and it
Motion.
still says everything.
I also have a suggestion. I think we should move the city reports up for the supervisors.
For the
Up
staff.
to the top of the agenda. I don't think it's
Yeah.
fair for them. They have to go to work the next morning and their
Yep.
families. I think they should be moved.
Plus, honestly, if there's people here in the public, for them to
Yeah,
hear their
they
reports
can
is
be-
actually
Be
good.
moved up too.
I would agree.
I like that idea.
I would agree with that.
I
That's
did
good.
bring up 2 weeks ago that we would be considering it. They were
Yes.
not opposed.
Yes, I think,
Really?
I think we should.
They're all
consider
signing up
that.
for their next 6 months, so they'll be more eager.
I like that, I like that
Yeah.
idea.
So we're gonna move the
Perfect.
reports up.
Yeah.
We can
Well,
just
at
put
least
it
the
like, I
department
would say,
head
right,
reports.
probably like
ours
right
are
after
So,
public
I mean,
comment.
we get to that point of the night where it's getting pretty long. Well, I care, but I was just
I don't.
a little bit longer. I'd rather hear it at the beginning than at the end.
I
Yeah.
would probably propose that they become number 8. And we won't do your reports and my report, because we're gonna be here no matter what.
I agree, I like
Department head
that.
reports number
Sounds
8.
great.
And
then
that's,
it'll be
I think
number
that's a
9.
really good idea, like.
Yep, and that way anybody's in the audience can leave after that if they wanna
Yes,
make their comment, yep. I like that too.
I'll make that announcement at the staff meeting in the morning. There'll be
Thank you.
cheers.
and I think those are good ideas.
Okie dokie. So number 28, upcoming city council meeting is the regular meeting will be then May 19th, and then we will have the special meeting on Tuesday, the 27th. For the budget amendment. Number 29, reports. We didn't have any department reports this time. So city administrator report.
I am working on the application for the garbage haulers and I'll be contacting all 5 of them that are currently doing business in town to get those out and give them a few weeks to get them back. I've also started working on, the garbage cleanup day, kind of planning it. I spoke to the county, people that organize the fair board properties. So that's my goal, would be to be behind the white fair board, looking at a Friday, Saturday. I think if we try to cram it all into one day, that isn't gonna be successful. So if we have one actual work day for all the city employees on a Friday and then a Saturday, so right now, looking at either the 2nd or 3rd weekend in June. I don't think that we can pull it off in time for May. I don't think we should wait until July.
I agree that we should do it sooner than later, but I think in the future, we should do a spring cleanup and a.
It will be,
Yeah.
it will be.
Well,
I don't have a choice. We either have to wait till fall.
But the biggest thing is having our parameters, that we're not having people bring down tires, electronics,
Yeah.
things that cannot go to the landfill, and then we're stuck with this pile
Well,
of.
I'm making plans for
Garbage.
some of that.
Well,
Yeah.
Publicize.
Well, that was the next question. So we might have an e-site drop off for
Working
old
on it.
TVs
So
or,
appliances, I talked to Doble's today.
nice.
They're willing to look at, some sort of a cost only that wouldn't be outrageous. We could say, so many per, you can't just bring us 10 refrigerators that you have stored up wherever.
Or air conditioning.
But talked to him, he was gonna talk to his brother, because that's who does it, where they would maybe have their trailer there so that it could actually get loaded right from there. Spoke to one of our tire businesses.
Okay.
Again, looking at, could there be a trailer there? Maybe it's like a $5, obviously, we're not expecting everybody to do this stuff for free.
No.
And then where I would need to do a bid, like, for those sidebar things, but for the roll-offs, my plan is to have sort of a simple document that says, how much are you gonna charge us? How quickly can you get, how much capacity do you have for roll-offs? And have you ever done this in our size community before?
Yeah.
To at least be able to analyze, like, because my biggest thing is, we're not failing.
Mhm.
When we have this, we are going to succeed, we will have enough. I spoke to the transfer station lady. I don't know if she's the actual manager, Lori out there.
She's been there 30 years, so she.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if she was like the actual manager, but we discussed, that I would like the option in this bid document to let them go straight to the landfill and not be going to the transfer site. They have 3 containers. So if we need to have 8, and then we're just like, why are we driving this stuff here?
Right.
And then like, either way, you're paying it. So if they pay a higher tipping fee to dump it at the transfer station, you're still paying it.
Right.
And depending on who can haul it, like they have their own contracts, they can get billed by the landfill, and I wanna have that in the document. As an option, so that we can see, like, do we save, do we pay more? But the key, again, is we have to be able to empty the roll-offs in some frequency, that it isn't like an hour into our 6-hour day, like, we're just turning everybody away.
Yeah.
Right.
When we're charging, like, this is serious.
Yes.
Yeah, you're
That's one
right.
thing if it's free, but
And we're
people are
gonna-
now paying for it, and we must succeed.
And we're,
Saturday, Sunday.
I think Friday, Saturday.
and we're gonna make sure they are Red Oak residents, not
The
people from the
usually
county.
Towns have them bring their utility bill where it has their name and address on it. They have to show that before they can dump it.
Yeah. And it would be like, we'll figure out some sort of gating.
Yeah.
Probably even do some sort of trail cams, like, there's gonna be cameras. I talked to the fair people, like,
Mhm.
might be hanging it, cause you'll have a Friday, Saturday, and then the likelihood is they're not gonna be able to get it all out on Saturday. So it has to be a Monday, worst case Tuesday morning.
Mhm.
So that's where I needed to look at, like, it can't be during the motocross race, which is the same as junction days.
Mhm.
I just don't think, and then the transfer station is only open the first Saturday.
Mhm.
Whereas, so we're not doing it 4th of July, and I don't think we need to cram it in the next 4 weeks. I don't think we're ready, so,
The second week is Father's Day.
but it's not Sunday.
No, I get it.
Which might be.
And it would be nice to get it all done before junction days.
Yeah.
Which is the
Some people might be clean.
27th, 8th, 9th.
Yes.
Just the biggest concern of all, that once it gets done, we don't leave one area of town littered with stuff that we couldn't get out, and then it becomes the city's undertaking again.
No, no, this will all be on the hauler,
That scares me.
but that's why it has to be on the hauler.
Yeah.
Like, we're paying so that there will be, like, in this little agreement that I'll have, it'll be like the latest that you can have that stuff there is Tuesday morning, all must be cleaned up. You know, we're gonna pay them and we have no idea what kind of.
Our
you know.
biggest thing is to make sure that this gets publicized and out, so we
Oh,
don't
it
have to
will.
hear,
It
oh,
will.
you
It will.
didn't give us enough warning,
People are waiting
know.
for it.
Yeah, the people are
well,
waiting
I
for
hope
it.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
Paying
We'll
for it now.
They are paying for it.
Not yet.
Not yet.
First.
Got it.
Facebook, everything.
Okay, so we're looking at the second or third weekend in June.
I better do it the second, because the third, that's just 1 week before junction days.
Well, again, they have to be done by Tuesday morning.
Yep,
No, thank you so much. for
Okay.
doing that.
So we're working that, delinquent utility bills, as I said, so this was our first mailing that just went out. So we have our normal 2,600 bills. If you guys hear, the system printed every single old bill. And we had an obligation, if we're gonna send you this set-off program, to give one final attempt at warning you. So I sat all weekend with 1,000, well, I separated all 4,000 bills. But then we added a little sticker to every one that was a final bill, that some of them are literally 15 years old. And I put a sticker on there that said, if this is not paid, you will be sent to the set-off program for collection.
How many for that?
Well, we normally send out
600.
Bill
4,000 total bills.
that were final?
No, that's the total.
Oh, yeah.
So at like 2,700. Yeah. And then we cannot collect anybody that's under $50. I thought it was $15, so I had separated a pile of the 15 and less, so those did not get mailed out. We found out this morning that it's $50 or less that you can't lien. And so I thought, well, it's worth the investment of the postcard that's already printed and the stamp. So we mailed them all out in hopes that some people will pay. So there's that. So there's a lot of bills. A lot of them will come back because of course we're mailing them to a last known address, which is
Yep.
clearly here in town. But I would say about half of them were places that were out of town. And as I said, I chunked them all up. So when I was sorting them all, I had under $100, 100, 200, 300, and everything over 400. And I prioritized the high end. So I sat on Beacon looking for parcels. Cause if you can find a parcel anywhere in the state of Iowa, we can send a lien letter and say you will be liened. So I feel like there is going to be a shock factor. Because there is like a $2,200 bill that we were left with people that live in this county and other communities.
Yes.
So they're going to have a shock factor when they get a letter that says,
Property, or are they living in that property?
it's all if they own a property.
No, but I'm saying, do you know when
Is
that
it
bill was
commercial
incurred, was
residential?
that on
We
their
wouldn't-
watch or renter's watch?
I have to go like, sometimes yes, sometimes no. But at the end of the day, it's your bill.
Yeah.
And you now own property.
Yeah.
So if you get weird calls, like, why is it okay to stick us with all this money?
Because it wasn't okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So therefore, we just need to back her up. She's
Well, just
trying
because
to
like
do it.
people are gonna be like, what is
Yeah.
this? Like, it still says their address,
Yeah.
where they lived.
Mhm.
You know, like there's the service address, so they're gonna know that that's where they live.
Yep.
So that will be, you know, we'll see what it ends up to be. We're gonna try to work on. There's even credits in the system. And
Yeah.
that's something, go ahead.
Can we advertise those names? I mean, they advertise overdue taxes
Are you saying that they're delinquent?
if they're doing.
Yeah, I thought about, this would be fun. I don't know that it's legal, but I was thinking about the fact that like we could list everybody's names. We won't say why or how much, but we'll say there's a finder's fee if you help us find these people. And you're part of, if you're part of any of these people, you will get a finder's fee of 20%.
I don't know if we need any bounty hunters out there.
Might be a little, yeah.
I
But
don't, I mean.
it's a fun idea, yeah.
The delinquent people that's not different than
Well, they do it
Bad
for
check.
taxes.
taxes.
I don't think you could ever say the amount, but I don't know.
I
Again,
collected
like
20
some
bucks, do I
public
get to
chain.
keep part of it?
Well, we'll
Well,
at least have it like over a certain threshold. I don't know, when you
I
sit
hate
looking
doing
at
that.
those bills,
But
Hi,
I know,
that was a
that's a
ton of
lot.
time
It's-
and
that's
effort on your
way
part.
Well,
too much.
That also,
That probably know a lot.
I had a few of the people at City Hall who like know people in other communities. I'm like, where do these people live? Does anybody know if they're still here? Tell me where they are. Because the problem is Beacon is all county based, right? So Like I was on Page, Cass, Mills, Potawatomi, Shelby, there's people in Des Moines. I mean, I just sat,
Good Lord, that was a lot of work.
It is.
yeah, but it's super
But-
satisfying. if
But
we're gonna get the
it's
money.
satisfying, but it's also, I mean, it's being consistent and fair. I mean, you're not holding anybody out.
Well, it's unfortunate it got to that point.
It's very
Yeah,
unfortunate.
and it's, again, it's not the staff, like they all did their best. Again, there's some credits on there, so we're gonna go through the credit list. Like there's random credits for like people that are in town that have a credit, like on a different property. And like, so there's just like this 4,000 number is like bogging down the system, like things need to be closed out.
And that's partly why you can't do the financial.
Well, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Right.
So Susie is like our main person who knows like where everybody is and
Yes.
so once she has payroll this week, but I'm gonna have her just sit and look at the credits and like, I found a couple landlords that I know are landlords right now and they have a credit, so let's zero out those accounts, get the credits, you know, rightfully back if they paid.
Yep.
And then the other thing, have you ever heard of the Great Iowa Treasure Hunt?
Mhm.
So I think that was something that we got called out on our audits in the past, that we weren't properly doing that, so then we have to figure out, like, that's my point of like, I don't wanna have to send them to the state. So if there's a way that we can, if people are still in town, or we know where they are, we can give them a credit on their account, and then if not, we'll have to send them to the Great Hunt.
Okay.
So,
Good deal.
cleaning up that. Civic, the girls, in the office, everybody in the office has been working super hard, like I said, like they're putting in some cases 60 hours a week, because there's just no way to keep up when you're
Mhm.
learning such a enormous new system. But everybody's really dedicated and we appreciate that.
Nice.
Mhm.
The bills went out, people are getting paid, so far so good. We'll see what happens, you know, we obviously flipped through those bills all weekend and they look to be normal for the ones that are not final, so hopefully they're good. Today, it's not approved yet, but I received the 4th building permit for the townhomes.
Yeah.
So we are up to, once those are all approved and built, that would be the first 20 units.
Mhm.
So I got that today, we'll send that off. Had another question today, from another elected official in our community, that there's still the rumor that the co-op is not building because of us. You know how that was back in January, so I actually had the person in my office pulled up the email, gave them a copy of the building permit, which is public information, and said, go back and show them, because they're not building their office. They're not doing anything because the city's not letting them. And so I would say there's a little bit of truth to every rumor, and if you recall, our current code would not allow them to build the tanks, but we gave them the building permit on the scale and the office building, and so. You know, these things kind of resurrect themselves, but the person that was in there was gonna go back to the resident that said that and hand it to him and say, like, I'm glad you asked, instead of just spreading the rumors, and that's not true.
And they're going ahead with the scale house and the office.
I mean, they have their approved permit that
Yeah.
they paid for, so. I
Yeah,
don't
they're
know.
just not putting the tanks in.
But they're committed to having a conversation with us before they would decide if they're gonna go out of town, because I said, let's at least discuss if you wanna talk about us looking at the code, that if we're 10 times more restrictive than the state, if that's what we are intentional about, we can keep it that way, but let's at least talk about it, so.
Yes.
They said when they're ready, they will, so that was just a little rumor.
Okay.
And I think that's all I have.
Okay. Yep, awesome work. As far as I go, I had Iowa Mayor's Association meeting and also a league board meeting. We had our Arbor Day tree planting on Arbor Day. We planted 7, can't remember what they're called now. We planted basically 12 trees. The youth council continues to work on their community betterment project. I hope to be able to share that very soon with you guys. Lisa and I met with someone to talk about a potential housing development. And we had the Leadership Red Oak Local Government Day a few weeks ago. And thank you, Ashley, and the chiefs and everybody who helped lead that day. I think it was good, and the airport. So they toured the police department, the fire department, EMA, and the airport, and then learned more about City Hall and local government. Their graduation is this Thursday, so congratulations to all of them. I will not be able to attend and do their little get plugged in speech that I usually give, but I gave it to them already, so hopefully they'll be ready to jump into some community involvement. And then I have a meeting coming up in the next couple weeks with regard to the RPA 13 and the Safe Streets for All. That's the funding that the Omaha Metro and SWIPCO work together on that grant. Federal funds to help us consider an application for either sidewalks or crosswalks or
Oh,
such.
good.
So we'll continue to have that meeting, and I think we'll probably put together our own little smaller community meeting. The Thriving Communities applications due like very soon, and I haven't done much more work on it, so I don't know where we stand on that. I just wanted to put that out there. I think it would be really valuable for us to have that. And Joey, Norris, and Steve could potentially help us with it too, so maybe I reach out to them and see if they can help me. Cause I said I would do it and I'm just not time, so. And, the other thing is we should be hearing any day about the community-wide assessment for the EPA grant that we submitted, so. Fingers
We have a
crossed.
message back from Mel Pins that it's the 15th to the 30th, so it could
Okay.
be as much as almost.
Almost a month away, but fingers crossed. We're competing nationally with all the other applicants, so. That's all I have. All right, city council members, let's start with Adam.
Nothing.
Okay, John,
None.
Tim,
The MCDC did a luncheon for some employers, so I was at that, and then I had a YMCA board meeting as well.
okay. Brian,
Well, I planted trees with the mayor and Bill Dre and our Ronnie Tilton and who was the other?
Rick Akers.
Yeah, Rick Akers was there. We planted trees on Arbor Day. Attended the prayer breakfast.
Oh, yeah, I did that.
Of course, I attended the 2 county supervisor meetings. And then I attended a meeting, I thought, you were there too, Tim, for the wayfinding sign meeting.
Oh.
And then also, attended a meeting with the park department for perhaps talking about a stage roof for our stage downtown.
Oh, and what about the one over the, Freedom Rock?
Right.
Well, that's done through the Heritage Foundation, and they've already determined what they're gonna do there, and I think they've already contracted with Red Oak Fab to make it. That's just gonna be a real simplistic
I don't
thing.
think they have approval yet, I hope.
I don't know that they've actually had it approved, but as far as I know, the park board has got it pretty much engineered and designed. That's the word I got,
I'll check
anyway.
with Bill. 'Cause
Yeah,
I don't
I
feel
would-
like it was brought before the board yet.
Anyway, that being said, it's just gonna be a rudimentary covering for the rock, and unfortunately, the rock's already starting to flake off again. We had it touched up last summer,
Yeah.
and I think there's probably something in the rock that's making that the paint react. I'm not sure, but at any rate, we're just gonna cover or the Heritage Foundation wants to cover it to help protect it, and that's at the recommendation of Bubba Sorensen, who's the artist that paints it, so. And other than that, just I attended a couple service meetings with my friend over there, and
Okay,
that's it.
all right.
Yeah.
Sharon.
Well, I'm working on the Evergreen Cemetery Walk
Mhm.
and it's going good. We have 6 actors this year for gravesite. We're also having a grand reopening for the country club. We completed our remodel after 1 year. Thank goodness, it's all redone. So
When is
anyway,
that?
we're having a dinner on the 20th of May. It's a Tuesday evening. So if you're interested, we have tickets at the country club available. And it'll be catered by Classic Cafe because we're gonna share it. You're all invited.
I
One
do
thing,
wanna say, if you drive past City Hall, the,
Yeah.
all the field workers, like between street, parks, cemetery, everybody's been super helpful, but we're kind of sprucing up around City Hall. If you looked on that south side, like grass didn't grow, so we had old landscaping rocks at the park department that we didn't have to buy and put a whole strip there, and there's
Nice.
mulch now and everything will look, we're gonna put some flowers outside, and so trying to spruce it up, and the guys snuck that in for us, so we appreciate it.
Mhm. I was gonna just mention the Historic Preservation Commission Facebook pages. If people are interested in following the history of all of the
And Cece's
Potential
done a
history.
great job.
Yes,
putting
she
the old buildings on it.
has.
She's helping with it, so.
Yes, so that, be sure to follow that if you're interested. Have any other items to discuss? Nope. Okay, I would consider this meeting adjourned because we have completed everything at 6:52.
Early bird special.